Hello and welcome to the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast. We have a full house this week for Divisional Round weekend, the best weekend of football of the season. We got rid of the duds last week with the Dolphins losing, the other backup quarterbacks losing, Kirk Cousins, of course, losing. Who can forget about the fraudulent Vikings going out of the playoffs at the first time of asking, which means we are through to Divisional Round. and we got technical issues already as Jack once again can't hear me. It's the story of the season for us with me and Jack this year. Um, anyway, yeah, through to the divisional round. We've got 4 games on the slate this weekend: 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. My Bengals made it through. They are the lovely 8 p.m. kickoff on Sunday night. But we do get the weekend started with the Jaguars at Chiefs. We've got Liam here. I've got Callum, and I will have Jack here as well, hopefully. How are we doing, boys? Callum, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, I'm going to take exception to Skylar Thompson being called a dud, but that's okay. It's neither here nor there in the grand scheme of things. The Dolphins did exactly what I didn't want them to do, which was build me up with false hope, only to let me down at the very end. I would rather we'd got blown out by 30. But proud of the effort, proud of the boys. Didn't expect to have a chance in that game, and tells you how good the rest of the roster is, really. Painful thing being that if Tua was healthy, we'd have won that game. So, it is what it is. But yeah, I think this is the best weekend of football all year. The games are usually high quality, though I am worried with how good last weekend was that maybe we've used them all up and that this one could just look amazing on paper and be 13-10 in every game in reality, which would be miserable. But yeah, excited. Glad to have been proven right about the Vikings. I know Liam's going to, pat me on the back when he introduces himself now.
Yeah, you beat me on our best bet. That was the only way we could end the season on was a best bet off. So congrats to Callum. I felt sorry for him. They has to watch the Dolphins every week, so I gave him that nice easy dub. But yeah, I'm good. Look forward to the weekend. I think Sunday's going to be amazing. 2 games Sunday are definitely the best games of the 2. I thought they'd split them up a little bit better, so 1-1 rather than have the potential 2 better games back to back on Sunday. But it should still be a good weekend. Lots of good quarterbacks playing, so yeah, should be an exciting one.
Yeah, Cowboys was always going to be the Sunday night game, and it does seem weird that they've given both bye week teams the early game. I suppose actually that's probably better. It gives everyone else a little bit more time to rest up. So yeah, having the Chiefs and Eagles on the Saturday, I guess, makes a bit more sense. Jack, how are you doing? Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. All good. Yeah, just as Callum said last weekend, the Dolphins can't believe they actually made a game of it. Thought after the first quarter it was going to be something like 45-3, but I backed the Dolphins lowest scoring team, so I probably deserved everything I got being a Dolphin fan. But last weekend was great weekend in NFL. Made a bit of money, but as I said earlier on before we started recording, I have 3 weeks to blow everything I won last weekend. So yeah, hopefully I don't do that.
Fingers crossed. It was Tampa was the lowest scoring team. I didn't even register who finished that as the lowest scoring team in the end. Obviously, we thought Dolphins, we thought Ravens. I think we thought Tampa would have done all right and at least put us some points, but apparently not. Tom Brady is probably done, although he is going to give it another go by the sound of it, which is interesting for one of the teams. I think Liam was saying the Patriots are actually. Oh no, the Patriots. Sorry, no, I'm not telling a lie. Patriots were the favourites for Lamar. Definitely not Tom Brady. That would be a very strange, a very strange comeback there. As you say, the games last week were fantastic. Really, 5-1 to the overs, so lots of points involved. Obviously, we're going to talk about a few of them now as we look back and handicap the future games. So I think we'll get straight into it with Jaguars plus 8.5 at the Chiefs. The total is 52.5 there. It's a rematch of a regular season game, as a lot of all the playoff games so far have been. The Jaguars lost that one at Arrowhead, 27-17. Even though they stole 3 or 4 possessions, they had a onside kick to start the game, surprise onside kick, which got them an extra possession. They intercepted Patrick Mahomes and they stole 2 fumbles as well away from the Chiefs and still lost by 10 points. So that kind of shows the difference in class as the Chiefs outgained them by 170 yards still. Obviously, last week was one of the more interesting games of the weekend. the third largest playoff comeback in history. But you can only do that if you're terrible in the first half. And Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions as part of their 5 turnovers. They're the only team, unsurprisingly, in playoff history to come back from 5 turnovers and win a game against the hapless Chargers, who are cleaning house now. They've got rid of their OT this week, and it seems like they're keeping Brandon Staley, which I'm not sure Chargers fans are too happy about. Chiefs fans probably are. Looked great. They've looked great recently. They're 7-1 straight up over the last 8 games. They're 7-3 against the spread over their last 10 games. Trevor Lawrence has been really good in the second half of the season. Of course, they've got Doug Peterson, who knows how to win a Super Bowl, who knows how to get his team to a Super Bowl, and he's obviously doing a damn good job with the Jaguars now. And they move the ball around the offense well. All 3 of their wide receivers scored last week. Evan Ingram actually led the team with yards, and he scored as well. The regular season between these 2 games, between these 2 teams, Kirk had 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns for the Jags. But since then, they have spread it around a little bit more, so they'll be hoping to do that again. On the Chiefs side of things, obviously they're off their bye week. Andy Reid is 27-4 off bye weeks in regular and postseason as a head coach. That's probably built into the line. It tends to be these days. And obviously Patrick Mahomes is pretty good. They've not been that great in the first game of playoffs recently. They've gone under the total in most of those games. However, they have obviously been winning them because they make it through generally to the championship game. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Obviously, they spread the ball around well. I'll let Liam explain a little bit more with that in a bit. But yeah, they've got talent all over. Jerick McKinnon is in the Sky Bet trouble this week. He's scored in, I think, 4 or 5 games in a row now as a pass catching back. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, this is the first decent quarterback the Jags have faced for quite a while. Obviously, Herbert's all right, but did not perform that well last week for the Chargers. So it'll be interesting to see how they do up against a very good Chiefs team. I personally, the obvious one, which pretty much all of us are going to be saying, is tease this one and the next game. It's the go-to teaser that every sharp I know, every podcast I listen to has been banging on about this week, is bring them down to plus Chiefs -2.5 and bring the Eagles down to -1.5. And you're getting 5 to 6 on that if you can get on teasers anywhere. Annoyingly, I can't. I did the alt totals at Paddy Power and it came down to it was terrible odds. It was 0.6 to 1. So nowhere near as good on the alt lines as a teaser would be. So if you can get teasers, definitely go on that. For me, I would probably be leaning under on the total. It's a little risky, and I guess the Jaguars to cover the 8.5, but it's not a game I'll be betting on for the major lines on this one. Callum, anything you got on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs will win this game. I don't know that I feel confident in going for a -8.5, just based on the fact that they do like to play with their food in Kansas City. I expect to see more snow globe left nonsense at some point that Andy Reid has cooked up over the bye week. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but I think they are liable to do some crazy stuff. And the Chiefs could be up by 20 and take their foot off the gas pedal. You borrow an Americanism. So yeah, there's definitely a way that the Jags can cover in this game. I as is kind of a theme for me throughout the weekend, I probably like touchdown scorers more than I like sides. I think a lot of these games are quite hard to call based on just the quality of the opposition. And really, this line is just a bit too big for me. So I don't disagree with what Adam said about trying to tease it down. I wouldn't hate taking Chiefs -6.5 just to give you that 1 score buffer. But it's not something that I would necessarily look to do. Skybet do both players to score a touchdown, 1 from each team. And you can get Travis Kelce and Evan Ingram at 4 to 1, which I quite like. Kelce is obviously the go-to weapon pretty much always for Mahomes. Their repertoire together is impressive, and Evan Ingram has been fantastic for Jacksonville. Really, he's kind of finally stepped into being the Evan Ingram that the New York Giants thought they were going to get and never really did. So credit Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence for unlocking him. I appreciate he had a big game last week, so the Chiefs will definitely be keyed in on him, but he's a big athletic body in the red zone. I don't think he's a bad shout to get into the end zone and score 6. So yeah, Kelce and Ingram probably my favorite bet.
Yeah, I like that bet. Chiefs are very bad against tight ends as well. So, and Jacksonville are the worst team in the league against tight ends. I think you've got like the 28th and the 32nd teams defending tight ends here. So, yeah, I think that's a good bet. Evan Ingram's basically their best receiver now. I know he doesn't get as many passes as Kirk does, but if you look at all their big time plays, it's just Evan Ingram against linebackers. So that's probably going to happen again this week. In terms of the rest, I think the under is probably a good shout. It might snow in Kansas City on Saturday, which would be nice because I don't think people from Florida enjoy the snow very much, so I'm sure that would help. Our chances of winning the game. So yeah, I think the under is quite good. It's going to be quite sleety, snowy weather, so that bodes well if you back the under. Spread wise, I probably won't touch it. I've already teased it down to the Eagles or the Alts. Only got 3 though instead at the time rather than 2.5. So if you can get 2.5 anywhere, I think that's a good bet. I just think that the Jags can score a lot of points if the Chiefs don't play very well on defense. So I think there's a chance that they could cover the spread. Chiefs are notoriously much better in the playoffs against these teams. They don't tend to take the foot off the gas as much as they do in the regular season. So we'll see if that happens. A couple of props I like. Christian Kirk over 5.5 receptions is good. He's done that in, I think, every game but one that they've won this season. So he's a big weapon when they do that. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns as well. There's some minus odds now. First time this season, but I still think it's good value. I think that he's going to be out there to prove a point. And anyone who watches the Chiefs in the playoffs knows Mahomes only runs in big games, and his rush total was 26.5. So I think that's probably a banker that if they play cover 2, he's just going to wait for them to drop back and then run for first down. So yeah, I like the over. Hopefully the Chiefs win. I think Adam's been nice about the Chiefs at the moment in case there's a big game next weekend that he can get ready to insult us for. But yeah, I hope we win. I think we do win. And hopefully we can win without being too stressful for me. But that doesn't normally happen with the Chiefs. So we'll see.
Yeah, I really like the Chiefs minus 8.5. It's probably my favorite bet of the weekend, handicap wise, and over and under. I think they'll smash them. I think the Jags, look, I think it was 27-0 last week. I know they came back and won, fair play to them, but I don't think they're on the same level as the Chiefs. I think nearly every game this year I've backed Mahomes score a touchdown each half. Usually get about 5 to 6 in it, so it's 1-2 for Saturday night. So it's not backable, but I think Kelsey to score a touchdown and to get 100 yards is 7-2. I think it's sport and bet. It's basically like a boost. So I'll probably get on that. I think he got 81 yards against them in the game earlier on in the year. And as I said, Mahomes didn't have that many possessions because of he did, but there's a few fumbles. There was an onside kick. I think he might throw an interception as well. So he could easily get the 100 yards. But yeah, I think the Chiefs minus 8.5 is probably my biggest bet of the weekend. And as over and under, probably won't touch it.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's brave going for that one straight off the bat. As I say, not one that I would be taking on this one, I don't think. But that's the story of the season again, and it's worked out well for you. Obviously, you smashed last week, so I definitely won't be going against you on that one. Yeah, it should be a good game. The only worry with the under is, as Liam said, is that, and Callum, all of you alluded to basically, is that the Chiefs can play with their food. They can trail by considerable amounts. Obviously, the Texans game a couple of years back, they trailed by huge amounts and then came back and won well in the end. But yeah, we've seen the Jags can score from behind. We've seen the Chiefs can score from behind. So that will be the worry on the under there. As I say, it won't be one I'll bet on, but that would be my lean on it. On to the next game, the Saturday evening game. I think it's 1:15 over here in the UK. Giants plus 7.5 at the Eagles with a total of 48. Obviously, last week we saw the Giants come through against the Vikings with a fantastic Daniel Jones performance. He is the first player in postseason history with a very niche stat to throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and run for 75 yards. I can't imagine there's ever been any QB coming close to that. So fair play to him for it, but it seems to be very cherry-picking.
Patrick Mahomes was 3 yards away from that, so running.
Oh, there
yards,
you go. That's probably why they created that. Is just to compare him to Mahomes. He's better than Mahomes. You heard it first. So yeah, fair play to him for that very niche stat that he's got. Obviously, the Vikings defense was dismal last week, and he had players wide open throughout the game, which was rather useful for him. But he looked really good on the ground. Him and Saquon Barkley looked fantastic. They obviously predicate their offense on the run game and then passer off of it. The no-namers they've got at wide receiver have been very good, frankly. Richie James in the slot does well. Isaiah Hodgins just doesn't seem to drop anything and is getting a lot more red zone looks recently. Darius Slayton is a deep shot threat for them, and he's doing really well. So fair play to the Giants. Basically, they've done brilliantly to get this far. I do think this is probably the end of the road for them, but they do say that it's very difficult to beat the same team 3 times in a season, and that's what the Eagles are going to have to do here. The Week 18 matchup between the two doesn't really count because the Giants rested all their starters. The Eagles, I was going to say they struggled to the win. It was a workman-like win. They didn't really struggle. They weren't ever really in doubt of not winning that game, but they got there in the end in a fairly close game. But the regular season game that actually matters, the Eagles won 48-22. They destroyed the Giants in that one, and they'll be looking to do similar here. They're at fairly good strength for this one. Lane Johnson should be back on the offensive line. Jalen Hurts he's going to be happy with the extra week to rest up with his shoulder injury. He was saying after that final game of the season that he wasn't 100%, and I'm not sure he will be coming into this one, but he's going to be a lot closer to it. He obviously can run the ball really well. He and the triple-headed running attack that they've got of Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott's been really good. Boston Scott is the one probably to look for in this matchup. Strangely, he seems to be as they were saying on Red Zone, I think it was, he's the giant killer. He's scored 10 touchdowns against the Giants in his time with the Eagles, including a hat trick of rushing touchdowns in one of the games. He is my bet for the touchdown in this one, unsurprisingly, at 7-2 on Paddy Power is fairly generous odds. And then, of course, the passing game for the Eagles. They've got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, who've all been fantastic through the year. A.J. Brown will have, I was going to say a field day. I don't think he'll have a field day, but he should have his way with the Giants' defense. The Giants' defense, in fairness, has been very good. Their pass rush has been fantastic recently with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau improving. And there's a clip of Thibodeau going for the rush, turning around and then sprinting 10 yards to the side and hunting down the receiver, which was it shows why they drafted him so high, and I think we were quite high on him in preseason. But yeah, this game I am actually, despite all the pro Eagles stuff here, I am actually leaning to the Giants plus 7.5. If it drops below 7, then I'd be leaning to the Eagles. I think it's that close on the spread there, and probably over on the total. We saw last week that the Giants can put up points. It will be. I mean, in fairness, Eagles' first half is probably the best way to go about this, in my opinion. But Boston Scott 7-2 and Giants plus 7.5, with it being over the 7 would be my bets on this one.
I have to agree with you mainly. Certainly, if it got below 7, you'd kind of want to go to the Eagles, kind of similar to the Chiefs, to be honest with you. I don't think that line's going to move as much. I hear what you're saying, and I am a firm believer in it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. But this, to me, is actually just the second matchup between these two because that Week 18 one doesn't really count. So I am pretty confident the Eagles will win this. I do think Daniel Jones was fantastic last week. I do think Brian Daboll has done a fantastic job all season. But there's a reason that the Eagles are the number 1 seed, and I just can't see this being one of those teams where they fight all year to get the number 1 seed, look really good throughout, and then blow it at home against a less talented divisional rival. It just doesn't really chime for me. So yeah, I would lean to the Eagles here. I'd probably lean. I mean, I always want to take the over, but with this line, it's probably one that's a stay away from me because I could see the Eagles scoring 35 on their own, and then it's, will the Giants score 0 or will they score 20? And it's kind of hard to call. I think the Eagles are the pick regardless. Similar to last time, I think touchdown scorers are the way to go here. I think the Giants will obviously have to key in on A.J. Brown, leaving one of my favorite. Somehow he's a number 2 wide receiver, but one of my favorite players to have a little bit more opening, which is Devonta Smith. And then equally, just as last week, I think the Eagles will have to try and sell out to stop Saquon Barkley. So you can get Devonta Smith and Daniel Jones both to score a touchdown at 6-1, which I don't think is bad either. I think you'll see Jones running. And again, he's a threat in the red zone, but equally, as utilized by the Cowboys very successfully on Monday night, when the Buccaneers all sold out for the Zeke touchdown run and Dak just kind of scooted out on the bootleg into the corner of the end zone. I could absolutely see the Giants doing something similar where they bait everyone inside to the Saquon Barkley rush, and Daniel Jones just scoots to the corner of the end zone. So Devontae Smith and Daniel Jones are my picks for this one.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not sure Daniel Jones's rush total is. I'm just gonna have a look, just because they are the second worst team in the NFL at defending rushing quarterbacks. This is like their only weakness. I think his total 45.5. Oh, nice, 44.5. Yeah, and I like that.
So up 4 yards from last week. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he had like 17 carries, something nuts, didn't he, last week? So yeah, I'm not sure he'll have that many carries, but yeah, they're not very good at defending it. Their linebackers are definitely a weakness in the run game for the Eagles. They haven't got many weaknesses, but that's one of them. So yeah, I like the Daniel Jones rushing total. I think they're going to have to run him. It would not surprise me if they line up with 2 running backs and him and start playing option football, because the Eagles just can't defend that. They can't defend the run. But they're going to be a much better team defending the pass than my Minnesota Vikings were last weekend, unfortunately. So yeah, I like those rushing totals. In terms of the spread, yeah, like I said, I've teased the Eagles down in one bet, and I do have the Giants plus 14.5 in another. So I'm maybe trying to middle it in this case. I don't think I'd touch 7.5. I don't think it's a good enough bet. I definitely wouldn't touch the total. I could see this game being a high-scoring game, or I could see it being a bit of a blowout, and then you lose your over. So yeah, I wouldn't touch the total. Be looking at more props. And then the only other two I've got is Dallas Goedert's line, 47.5. We saw what the Giants did to TJ Hawkinson last week. He was the highest, I think he had the leading yards in that whole game last weekend. They can't defend tight end, so I like that. And then Miles Sanders, his receiving yards is 4.5. This is a bit of a theme for me this weekend, running back receiving yards. And 4.5 is tiny. He averages more than that over his last 5 games. So yeah, I'm going to go for him to catch a dump off and take it for 6 or 7 yards at some point in the game.
Yeah, I actually love the Giants in this one. Probably my second favorite bet of the weekend. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Eagles. Look, they're the number 1 seed. I think it's Hurt's second playoff game. I think he played against the Buccaneers last year, and they were poor. They lost like 31-15 or something like that. But the Giants basically playing house money here. There's no pressure on them whatsoever. 7.5 is a lot. I think the Eagles will win the game, but I just think Dayball will be able to keep it relatively close. Yeah, look, obviously the Eagles are the better team, so you'd obviously be backing them to win the game. But yeah, look, I like the Giants plus 7.5 here, and I might tease them up to 14, but I'm confident enough that they'll be able to keep it within a touchdown. That being said, if the handicap was maybe like 3.5 or 4.5, I'd probably be pretty confident in the Eagles. So yeah, I wouldn't be as confident as I am with the Chiefs winning with the handicap. But yeah, it's probably one of my favorite bets. Haven't really looked at props around in this game, but I'd probably lean towards the under as well, just because the two teams I think will be rushing a good bit. Daniel Jones has been unbelievable with his feet this season, and obviously Hurts is the exact same. So I'd probably lean towards the unders, and yeah, Giants for 7.5. I like that one as well.
Yeah. Liam's just messaged saying that both the 1 seeds went out in the divisional round last year. So obviously the Chiefs and the Eagles will be hoping to avoid that this year, and I think they will. It'd be a huge shock if they failed in that one. Obviously, it was the Titans and Buccaneers, was it last year? Who was the 1 seed for NFC?
Packers.
Packers, of course.
Yeah, they lost in that game, didn't they? Where it was low scoring and they had a block field goal or something, didn't they? Or block punt.
In a wintry, cold Lambeau, wasn't it? From what?
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers special, losing at home in the playoffs. Just your favourite, Adam. Your favourite.
That's what he does, and I'm sure he blamed everyone else for it. So yeah, we as Liam said, there's a theme this week with pass catching backs and with QB rushing yards. Obviously, these are the big games. These are the ones that you can't lose, and QBs tend to step up. So yeah, I don't mind taking the over on pretty much all the rushing quarterbacks this week. I think Joe Burrow's got a decent line, which we'll get to in a minute as well for the Bengals. Josh Allen, obviously, we know he's a good rushing quarterback. In fact, they're all fairly decent. Like Brock Purdy even is very mobile. He's got a really quick 5 yards that he used well last week, which we'll get to in a bit. So yeah, we'll be interesting to see how the Saturday games go. On to Sunday. It's the Bengals plus 5.5 at the Bills with a total of 48.5. That is the early game. It's 8 p.m. kickoff for us in the UK, which is fantastic. I didn't make the Bengals game last week. I was drinking through the early games and then fell asleep about 12:30. Set an alarm for 1 and woke up at 4. So ended up watching the highlights in the morning. I had no chance of being up for that one, but I was fairly confident we were going to win. Not in quite the fashion that they did, where they did struggle against the Ravens. But I'm not putting too much weight into that. They played the Ravens in week 18 and struggled against them there as well. They did earlier in the season. They struggle against the Ravens, basically, is what I'm saying. The Bills struggle against the Dolphins. So I'm not putting too much weight into either of those games, frankly, with how close the results were. What is a big worry, obviously, for the Bengals is loss of another offensive lineman, left tackle Jonah Williams going out of the game, which means they're without both tackles now, and Alex Cappa at right guard. I don't think any of them are going to be back, obviously. Collins won't be. Jonah seems to be week to week with a dislocated kneecap, which seems ridiculous. Alex Cappa seems a little closer with his ankle, I believe it was, but I don't think either of them are going to play on this one. So they're down to second, third stringers, which is not great, but if anyone can do it, it's Joe Burrow and the Bengals, as they did for most of last season and most of last postseason. So I'm mildly confident. The Bengals were 2.5-point underdogs at home just a few weeks ago. Obviously, that game only managed 10 minutes, but they looked very good in it. They targeted Tre'Davious White quite a lot. Chase would have had a touchdown on the first play of the game had it not been for him being grabbed and hauled to the ground. Tyler Boyd won against Tread White for the touchdown they did score, and then they were charging down the field on the next possession as well after holding the Bills to just 3 points on their possession. So I am confident that they will be able to move the ball well. Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, of course, are a very good passing attack. What did happen after those players went out last week, though, was a lot of quicker passes. Joe Mixon's receiving line is one I just checked after Liam mentioned it, 23.5. It's probably a little higher than I'd like, to be honest, but could be a lot more dump offs to him. And then to Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst, who generally played a shorter plays. But they've been dink and dunking quite a lot this season, and they've done well with it. So the Bengals they have learnt to do a more varied attack now rather than just go routes to Chase, which was the meme of last year. So I think they can put up points on this Bills defense. Is whether they can hold the other end, which I believe they can do as well. The Bills obviously dominated the stats against Dolphins last week, frankly. It was the turnovers that cost them, 2 interceptions, and of course a fumble 6 for touchdown for Miami, which kept them within touching distance until the Bills pulled away a little towards the end. Obviously, Steph Diggs, Gabe Davis, and John Brown streaking down the field. There's going to be a lot of aggressive deep shots, and the Bengals have done all right defending that so far this season, but we know that the Bills can put up points from anywhere. We know that their defense is fine. We know the Bengals' defense is fine. So it's going to be, in theory, a high-scoring game. I don't think I'm going to take the over, though. I think it could be a weird one to watch. I believe, personally, I mean, obviously I'm very biased. I think this is going to be the best game that we can. But I think it's probably going to be within one score. I'll save my best bet on the spread till the next game, but I do think the Bengals have got a very good chance of winning outright. So I would take them plus 5.5 and probably lean under on the total.
I agree with you on the Bengals plus 5.5 because I do think it'll be close. I would take the over just largely because I think both of these teams are so much fun and there's so much firepower that really it should be illegal for this game to go under, to be honest with you. Just like there's too much offensively for this to actually not be a 32-31 type game as far as I'm concerned. This might sound weird because it's obviously not something that you can bet on. If I could bet that the Buffalo Bills bring out Damar Hamlin before kickoff to hype up the crowd, I would put my entire mortgage on that. And therefore, I think the Bills will get a really fast start, get hyped up. If the Bills win the toss, I would accept it, go straight down the field and try and score. I think it'll be a great game one way or another. you could convince me either way on the side, and it's not one that I particularly want to bet on the outcome as opposed to points or scorers. Like I said, again, as Adam reminds me, the Bengals haven't allowed a touchdown in the first quarter for 11 straight games, but they haven't been facing the team of destiny and the DeMar Hamlin effect, which, I just think there's something about the Bills right now. Everything that could possibly have gone wrong for them against the Dolphins did go wrong, and they still won the game. Now, admittedly, you've got your Skylar Thompson effect to weigh into that as well. But I really just kind of feel right now like the Bills just kind of have everything rolling. And with all due respect to the Bengals, it just feels like we're due for Bills Chiefs 2 at a neutral site in a dome with overtime rules where both teams touch the ball. It just kind of feels like we're heading to that. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Adam in saying that. And I know Liam doesn't want to hear that, but you're going to lose in overtime in the championship game anyway. Yeah, my kind of lean for a lot of the stuff this weekend is kind of based around quarterbacks and tight ends. I've heard what you guys have all said about receiving running backs, receiving yards, which I like. But I also think something that I can't remember who said it earlier. I think it might have been Liam about Mahomes rushing in big games. And I know Adam wanted to touch on Joe Burrow rushing here as well. But I think Josh Allen is liable to kind of do his craziness and run for his life a little bit here to escape Sam Hubbard and the likes. So my double up for this game in terms of touchdown scorers is you can get Josh Allen and Hayden Hurst, who quietly has had a very good season. You can get that double at 10-1 on Sky Bet, which I actually really like as a price. Allen and Hurst, I think, obviously the Bills will key in on Chase, Boyd, Higgins, and not to say that they won't find a way to get around them. But I just think Hurst might be someone who gets a little bit overlooked by the Bills defense. And he has had a really good year for the Bengals, an underrated pickup. So I think at the price, Josh Allen rushing touchdown is fairly common. And Hayden Hurst has had a good year. So 10-1 for those two, I really like.
Yeah, I agree with Callum that we're probably set up for a rematch for the playoffs last year. But it's not going to be the Bills. It's going to be the Bengals-Chiefs rematch. Part 3 or 4, actually. This is a weird one for me. Obviously, I hope the winner, I hope my team's won. I can enjoy this game, sit down and chill and watch it. And I should want the Bills to win. One of my best friends in the world is a Bills fan, obviously not being the most fortunate of fan bases in his time and his dad's time with how many Super Bowls they've lost. I don't really like the Bengals. Adam's like the only nice Bengals fan that I think I've met. So, but I just think the Bengals are going to win. I actually think they've got the second best quarterback in the NFL playing at the moment. For me, I do not think Josh Allen is playing well at all. He has been terrible for 4 or 5 weeks by his extremely high standards. The amount of turnovers he throws, they should have lost last week. If the other team's coach could call a timeout, I think they lose. Or call a play in time, I think they lose. So I am leaning Bengals. That's my best bet, plus 5.5. But I'm also in the side where I want the Chiefs to play the Bengals because I'm more scared of Josh Allen running all over the place in the playoffs. So it's a very weird game. But yeah, I'm going to go the Bengals. I agree with Adam. I think they can win straight up. So I think 5.5 is a good bet. They're also 11-1 on Sky to be the highest scoring team. I'll talk about there's 2 teams that are 11-1. And I just feel like if I think they're going to win the game, then they're going to score more than the Bills for me, who are like the second favourites for this. So I think that 11-1 is a good price for that. I hope we see a fun game. I think Josh Allen's line's 46.5, Callum. So I think that's a pretty good bet, similar to Daniel Jones. And as much as I like Daniel Jones, Josh Allen can run for 50, 60 yards in one pop, whereas I just don't see that happening for Daniel Jones. So yeah, I like that over. Should be a fun game. I'm not going to touch the total because I don't know what you're going to get from Lou Anarumo, and I don't know what you're going to get from this offensive line. So it could be a lower scoring game than people think. But I fancy Burrow and Chase to win the game, and I'll take 5.5.
Yeah, really looking forward to this game. I think on Monday or Tuesday, I was thinking the Bengals plus 5.5 was probably one of the best bets I've seen on all season. But I listened to a few podcasts and they're on about the Bengals O-line and stuff like that, and they're on about the DeMar Hamlin effect and how he'll be there and motions for the Bills and stuff. And I don't know why I'm starting to just be kind of thinking that I should just watch the game and enjoy it as opposed to actually put a bet on it. They played earlier on the season, obviously, I think it was like half a quarter, was it? And the Bengals looked unbelievable. I think they were just carving through the Bills defense with ease. I know that was in Cincinnati, but I still expect the Bengals to be able to put up points. I suppose I'll be able to enjoy this game as opposed to the later game because obviously I have the 49ers outright, but I actually don't. I do like if I look gun to my head, I'll back the Bengals plus 5.5, but I think I'll probably actually just not put a single cent on this game and just enjoy two really good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think despite us being a betting podcast, I think that is probably the way to look at this one. Is it should be a heck of a game, and fingers crossed, it should be very good. Liam, I'll let you say that one.
Yeah, so the Bengals offensive line obviously not good. Left tackle is also a terrible person off the field and a terrible player. So in logical thought says they're going to get killed, but the Bills are the third worst team in the NFL since Von Miller's left in terms of pass rush. They're having to blitz more than anyone that's not named the Giants, who have got Wink Martindale, to get any sort of pass rush. So I just feel like if you blitz Joe Burrow, you get killed. If you rush 4, they're definitely going to sack him because the O-line is bad, but this is a very different game if Von Miller plays. So yeah, I just feel like the pass rush isn't going to be as bad as everyone says. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if the Bengals can run the ball to help out a little bit. You'll know more than me about that, Adam, but it hasn't been good the last few weeks.
No, I'm not entirely convinced in that one. With the offensive line issues, there might be more Pirine in because he's a better blocker, and in fairness, he's been a better runner for what we've seen this year. So it'll be interesting. I know the SGPN guys were high on Mixon this week, doing well on the ground. I'm not entirely convinced on that one, but yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a nervous few hours for me. As I say, at least it's the 8 o'clock game, so shouldn't be too drunk by then. Should be all right. T. Higgins is 2-1 to score any time in that one. I thought that was pretty generous odds at Paddy Power, which was a lot higher than I was expecting. Chase was down at 13-10, I think, but again, plus money, not too bad. Pirine total yards 27.5, so that's rushing and receiving. I think that's quite generous for someone who has shown he can definitely do that, and he's not got the best top speed, but he's had receiving touchdowns this year and rushing, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in that one. And as Liam's saying, he outsnapped Mixon last week. I assume a lot of that was second half because of the need for extra blocking in there. I'm not going to talk about last week. I think the Bengals were fine. They did what they needed. All they needed to do was get to this game. So on to the final game of the weekend. Cowboys are +4 or +3.5, depending where you look, at the 49ers. The total is a lowly 46, which is a little bit of a surprise, but two very good defenses on show here. I believe they were 1-2 in DVOA in the regular season, so that is probably why we're down at 46 in this one. But from what we've seen of the 49ers with Brock Purdy and since Christian McCaffrey was traded in, they're probably going to hit 30 points. So I think it'll be very tough for the Cowboys to stop them, frankly. That's why my best bet is 49ers -3.5, which was on Paddy Power. It's 4 on Bet365, and I believe the line's actually going towards the Cowboys, so you might be able to wait for a 3 if you did want to wait. Bit of a risk, but yeah, I just think the 49ers are unstoppable at the moment. And with Debo back, he had over 100 yards last week. Christian McCaffrey had over 100 yards last week. The Cowboys are fairly decent in the middle of the field, but that'll leave Brandon Ayuk to get open. And we saw last week he should be able to do that. Brock Purdy he's been very good, frankly. Admittedly, he hasn't faced the toughest competition so far. But from what I saw last week, I think that was honestly the first time I've actually really watched anything involving him. Even when he was under pressure, he escaped. As I say, his 5 to 10 yard sprint is very impressive, and then he was resetting his feet and he was finding players down the field. It was an incredible performance from a very young lad who was drafted at the end of the draft. And even with Shanahan scheming everything, it was the out of scheme stuff that I was impressed with. The Christian McCaffrey play for the touchdown, I don't think was planned. The Elijah Mitchell touchdown wasn't planned. That was Purdy adapting and going through his reads and finding the open man. So very impressed with him. And with the offense they've got, they can beat anyone. And obviously the defense they've got, they can get in there and they will put pressure on Dak, who had no pressure last week and had probably the best game he's had all season. He will be under pressure this week. And he's not done well with that. He did do well last week, though. I will give him that. I'm not the biggest fan of Dak, but 2 touchdowns to Dalton Schultz, 1 for Lamb, 1 for Gallup. Spread the ball around. Schultz and him have been really good since he returned from injury. So we know the Cowboys can put up points. We know they've got a very good defense with Micah Parsons up top, although he's looked a little off the pace in recent weeks. Him and DeMarcus Lawrence will be able to get pressure on the 49ers despite a very good offensive line. I just don't think they're going to put up enough points, frankly. Mick McCarthy, I say that every bloody time. Mike McCarthy got the monkey off the back with a playoff win last week, but I think they over celebrated it. I think that was their moment, and this one I just don't think it's going to be. They're not going to have enough. It is did I say 4th road game in a row for the Cowboys? And this is a proper trip as well. This is all the way across the country. So I think, yeah, I love the 49ers again this week. I think I will back them to cover the spread.
I'm going to invite Jack to go first here based on what he said about his future and based on how I think my opinion might differ from the other two. So, Jack, please take the floor.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm actually a bit nervous about this game. Look, I backed San Fran maybe about, 7 or 8 weeks ago. I think got them at 12s to win Super Bowl and 11-2 to win the NFC. So obviously that looks good now, but I don't know. The Cowboys are good on Monday night. That being said, look, the Buccaneers are terrible, but they're pretty good. Dak was excellent after the first 2 drives. But yeah, look, the 49ers, I've basically been supporting them along with the Dolphins the last couple of weeks, and they basically played nobody really big in the last, since I think the Chiefs smashed them like 44-23 or something, maybe about week 7 or week 8, whatever it was. And since then they've played, I think, the Cardinals twice, the Saints, Commanders, Seahawks twice, I think. So like not really hectic teams. And look, they have been impressive, but I think the Cowboys would be a bit of a step up. Look, if I didn't have money on them, I probably would lean towards the 49ers -3.5. But the fact I have money on them anyway, I probably just watch the game and enjoy it. But yeah, I am a little bit nervous, not going to lie. But I think 49ers will win, but it'll be close enough.
Liam, go ahead.
Yeah, Callum and Liam.
Well, I think Callum thinks I'm going to be on Adam's side of this one, but I'm not. I'm going for Cowboys +4, 100%. The quarterback, Purdy did play okay in the second half, but he was awful in the first half. Like, really, really bad. The amount of throws he missed. It didn't quite get the collapse game that I'm hoping for. Maybe this will be the collapse game, or the Super Bowl against the Chiefs would be the ideal collapse game. But yeah, I just think they can win the game. And if they don't, I think it could easily be a field goal. Kyle Shanahan's not known for going for it on 4th down. He's a very conservative coach. They do kick a lot of field goals, and they're like 3rd highest in the NFC for amount of field goals kicked this year. So I feel like it could be a field goal game, and they can still win, and we can win the bet. But yeah, I've already backed Cowboys to win the game. Cowboys +10, Cowboys +4. I just feel like their defense is going to be good enough up front to get after the O-line. I hope they don't put Micah Parsons as a linebacker to try and cover Debo. I just think that's a waste. I think you should just rush him and just hope you can hit Purdy as much as you can. But yeah, I feel like it'd be a fun game. Cowboys are my other team. They're 11-1 as well, highest scoring team of the weekend. And I feel like they could put up 30 points, and that might win you this bet. So, yeah, I'm with you, Callum. Maybe it's me feeling sorry for myself after a Vikings loss last week. Now I'm just going to agree with everything you said. But yeah, I'm on the Cowboys.
I wouldn't agree with everything I said. Yeah, no, you're the first. You're the first non-Cowboys fan that I've spoken to this entire week who believes Dallas have a chance along with me. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit influenced by my surroundings. Obviously, I'm living in Dallas, and the atmosphere in the bar on Monday night as they took apart the Buccaneers was fantastic. The biggest cheer of the night by far was for Brett Maher's finally made extra point. That's the 5th one he attempted. It got to the point after 2 where everyone in the bar was yelling, "Go for 2." And it was, I mean, it's tough because you feel bad for Brett Maher, but it was legitimately one of the funniest things I've ever seen when the 3rd one missed and then the 4th one missed. I mean, we just couldn't believe it. I think that, and I should have had this already pulled up, and I apologize for not having it ready to go right now, but Brock Purdy has done fantastically well, and I want to give him credit. That said, when we talk about the 49ers, since Brock Purdy took over, He's played the Buccaneers, who we've already said are not very good, the Seahawks, the Commanders, the Raiders, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. That's not a gauntlet. This is the first legitimate, real defense that they've played. The Commanders, okay, sure, they have a good defense. I wouldn't say it is great. However, I truly believe that this Cowboys defense is special and talented, and Micah Parsons is a huge part of that. So for me, I just think that the Cowboys have a real chance here. I know it's not what Jack wants to hear. I don't want to be mean to Jack with his season-long bet, but yeah, I really strongly feel like the Cowboys have a real chance in this one. And Dak has waited until it really matters to have the best game of his entire career. That game for me on Monday was Dak's best game of his whole career, I think. And I hear the lack of rest. I hear going across the country, but I will say this, that going from Dallas to San Fran is a hell of a lot closer than from the East Coast to San Fran. So maybe not quite as bad as some of the East Coast teams would have. I just really fancy the Cowboys in this one. I think they've got a really good chance, and you can't make me like Kyle Shanahan. I refuse. So I'm with the Cowboys. I'm standing with you. You know what? And then this is the biggest thing. Reason number one why I can't trust and won't like Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy has been fantastic. Brock Purdy is the best quarterback on that roster. Kyle Shanahan thought he was the third best. Kyle Shanahan legitimately looked at Jimmy Garoppolo and said, I want you. Looked at Trey Lance and said, I want you. Ahead of the guy who's taken him to the playoffs. Admittedly, the rest of the team around him is fantastic, but I can't trust Kyle Shanahan. I refuse. Take it away. I'm with the Cowboys all the way here.
Jack's won enough money this season. We don't want any more. We don't need any more big wins from Jack. We're fine.
Yeah, I'm on 49ers for the Super Bowl as well as part of my book that I've put together, and they're about 700 quid for me. So I wouldn't be too upset if they won. I'd be a little bit more upset with the Cowboys. They're down about 300-400, but they are part of the book, which is nice for me. Couple of bets there was over 6.5 rush yards for Brock Purdy. Zeke over 5.5 receiving yards was another one that Liam's pointed out, and yeah, Dalton Schultz is over 2-1 to score a touchdown. He obviously scored a couple last week, so wouldn't be too surprised there. And yeah, anything else from this game, guys?
Yeah, sorry, I should have said, I took a screenshot of it earlier. Schultz and Kittle to score touchdowns is 6-1. I like that as a double because I think both, again, tight ends and quarterbacks for me this weekend. But I think that, Schultz has been fantastic, one of Dak's favorite targets, and Kittle has proven to be Brock Purdy's favorite. So, yeah, I like that at 6-1.
Yeah, it's going to be Peyton Hendershot now or Ferguson who's scoring the tight end touchdown for them. But no, it's tight ends did well for us last week. I think we all had a little bit on the tight ends last week, and they did very well. I also should have mentioned Kadarius Toney too, 21-10 in the first game. The Chiefs game, they've obviously been manufacturing plays for him, and had he scored 2 in their last game and had 1 pulled back, and then went and ran in immediately afterwards for decent odds. So yeah, and Mecole Hardman out once more for them as well. So I think we're probably about ready to wrap up. Is there anything else from you guys?
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Who Dey Bengals. Go Niners or whatever they shout. I think it's CTTB, the hashtag or something like that now. And not really fussed about the other game. Yeah, go Eagles. I do have a decent amount of free bets on the Eagles for the Super Bowl as well at very nice odds for me. So thanks for that, champ. Guys, I will leave you. We'll leave you now and on to Championship weekend next week. Obviously only the 2 games, so we'll figure out what to do with that one. But we don't need to talk about that now. See you later, all, and enjoy the weekend of football. Who Dey?